Imagine waking up tomorrow morning, right? You pour your coffee, you step outside, and you suddenly realize that gravity is, well, it's pulling just slightly to the left.
Oh, that would be a mess. You'd spill your coffee immediately.
Exactly. Everything you rely on to navigate the physical world.
Yeah.
You know, how to walk down your driveway, how to set down your mug without spilling it, the basic physics of driving your car. None of those traditional rules apply anymore.
Right, the whole underlying system is just broken.
Yeah, you are suddenly forced to figure out how to operate in a world where the fundamental laws of reality have just shifted overnight.
I mean, that kind of systemic shock is honestly the perfect way to visualize the situation that's currently unfolding in the Asian market environment.
It really is.
We are looking at a system where the foundational logic, the historical correlations and standard behavioral models that most financial systems just blindly rely on, has literally shifted underneath everyone's feet.
The traditional navigation tools are just completely failing.
Totally failing. It's wild to watch.
And that structural breakdown, that's the core of our deep dive today. We're looking at this exclusive observation log dated June 1st, 2026.
From Team AI Labs Substack.
Yeah, exactly. And the mission for us today is to analyze the raw, objective simulation data of two fiercely opposing algorithmic philosophies.
Two very different mindsets.
Right. These two AI models are essentially battling it out in the middle of this massive chaotic market storm, trying to prove whose underlying logic is, better suited for survival when everything goes totally sideways.
But before we look at a single data point, I think we really have to establish the strict parameters of what we're reviewing for you, the listener.
Oh, absolutely. Setting the ground rules.
Because what we're doing today is purely an analysis of algorithmic behavior and simulation results under some highly specific, isolated conditions.
Right. This is a strict observation log.
Exactly. It contains zero financial advice. There are absolutely no promises of future profits, and nothing we discuss here is a recommendation for you to buy or sell any asset.
We are entirely in the realm of simulation and research today.
Yes. Think of us as like researchers analyzing two very different synthetic organisms that are just trying to survive in a digital environment that has been violently destabilized.
We are strictly in the lab today. But to make sense of the data coming out of that lab, we first have to understand the vastly different personalities of the algorithms being tested.
Right, they represent two completely distinct philosophies on how to survive a storm.
But to really appreciate their logic, you have to understand the sheer scale of the anomaly they're facing in this simulation.
And it is massive. I mean, the log highlights these huge index contrasts, specifically against the Nikkei 225 and the TOPIX.
Right, and for anyone unfamiliar, the Nikkei 225 is a price-weighted index of the top Japanese companies, while the TOPIX tracks all domestic companies on the exchange's premier section.
Yeah, and normally these indices follow somewhat predictable, historically mapped correlations. I mean, algorithms build their entire worldviews around those relationships.
They depend on them.
Right, but the data in this log paints a picture of a totally abnormal situation. Those indices are behaving erratically.
The historical spread between them, the way different sectors move in relation to the broader market, it's all decoupling.
It's completely decoupling. It's creating this brutal, unrelenting storm for any standard strategy that relies on the old rules of gravity.
So if you're an algorithmic unit deployed into that brutal storm, you need a very specific set of instructions to survive.
You do.
And Team AI Lab deployed two completely different models to test this out. The first philosophy is called Team Mountain Climber.
The mountain climbers.
Their core operational logic is equilibrium detection. The idea here is that they are looking for the eye of the hurricane.
Right, they aren't trying to fight the wind.
No, they're seeking a rare, immovable, perfectly still place amidst a roaring storm.
Mechanically speaking, equilibrium detection means they are hunting for, pure market neutrality.
They're trying to mathematically neutralize the chaos.
Exactly. So if the broader market is violently swinging up and down, the mountain climbers are executing these incredible complex hedging strategies.
Like they might be going long on certain assets while simultaneously shorting others.
Yes, in perfectly calculated ratios, attempting to literally cancel out the broader market's volatility.
They want to find a quiet structural cave on the side of the mountain and just anchor themselves to the rock.
Completely insulated from the macro environment.
Right. And then you have the second philosophy, which takes the exact opposite approach. Team Wave Riders.
Wave riders, right.
Their core logic is surging force tracking. Instead of seeking stillness or trying to mathematically neutralize the chaos, this algorithm attempts to harness the violent momentum of the rough seas.
They aren't hiding in a cave.
No, they are strapping themselves to a surfboard.
It's wild.
Mechanically, this is algorithmic momentum tracking. They are just ignoring the traditional fundamentals that are currently failing.
Because they have to.
Right. And instead, they're analyzing the sheer velocity of price action and volume spikes. They use the massive weight and momentum of the market's panic to throw their own trades forward.
It is essentially financial judo.
That's a great way to put it.
They aren't trying to predict where the market should be based on, historical logic. They're simply reacting to the raw, surging power of where the market is actually going right now.
But wait, if I'm looking at this purely from an evolutionary standpoint, how is it fundamentally possible for two completely opposite philosophies to survive the exact same market anomaly?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Right, because if an environment suddenly turns freezing cold, the animals with thick fur survive and the ones without it don't.
Yeah.
You don't usually see two totally contradictory traits thriving in the exact same crisis.
No, you usually don't.
So why even run both of these strategies simultaneously?
Because survival in a chaotic, synthetic financial system isn't about finding one universal, permanent truth. It's about how your specific mathematical logic interacts with immediate, micro-level conditions. An environment as complex as a global market isn't just freezing cold everywhere all at once. There are pockets of extreme velocity which the wave riders exploit.
Right.
And there are hidden, microscopic pockets of structural inefficiency which the mountain climbers exploit.
So they're just attacking different parts of the same anomaly.
Exactly. The short-term survival of both strategies gives the overarching AI model a much higher resolution map of the entire storm.
That makes total sense. And to see how this plays out in reality, we have to look at the specific algorithmic units deployed on the front lines in today's log.
Yeah, the daily data is where this theory turns into hard reality.
The June 1 log starts with what it calls daily scouting. This is basically the new talent draft.
Right.
Every day at 9:00 a.m. Japan Standard Time, the algorithms go out and draft fresh units into the simulation.
They are essentially pulling in new data vectors, new parameters, and new logical combinations to test against the live chaotic environment.
And continually injecting new talent is, well, it's a vital mechanism for machine learning.
Oh, absolutely. You cannot rely solely on the models that worked yesterday when the rules of gravity are changing today.
Right, the overarching system has to constantly feed the simulation fresh hypotheses.
So what were the new talent draft numbers for today?
They're fascinating, actually. The mountain climbers, the ones looking for pure stillness, they drafted 2 new units into the simulation.
Cute, yeah.
And the wave riders, the momentum surfers, they drafted just 1 new unit.
Wow, it's a really striking visual if you think about it. The system is sending these brand new, untested algorithmic rookies straight into a Category 5 hurricane.
Just to see if their freshly compiled navigation systems can handle the pressure.
Exactly. But while the new talent draft shows us the daily intake and the system's attempt to adapt, the real analytical weight lies in the active roster.
The main forces.
Yes, the main forces. These are the units that have already been drafted and are currently undergoing their mandated 10-session tenure within the simulation.
I actually want to unpack that mandated 10-session tenure because it is a crucial design element in this whole deep dive.
It really is.
Unlike a human trader who might watch the market plummet, panic, and liquidate their entire portfolio on day 3, these algorithmic units are locked in.
Right, they do not possess the capacity for fear.
Exactly. They are forced to let their underlying logic play out for exactly 10 sessions, no matter how volatile the environment gets.
Which prevents the data from being skewed by erratic mid-session abandonments. It forces a complete observable life cycle for every single hypothesis.
That enforced discipline provides entirely untainted data. And when we look at the performance of the main forces currently inside that 10-session window, a very stark contrast emerges between the two philosophies.
Let's look at Team Wave Riders first. Currently, they have 11 active units on their roster. Out of those 11 units navigating this massive market storm, 9 of them are holding positive points.
That is wild. 9 out of 11.
They are absolutely thriving.
The rules of traditional navigation are completely broken. The indices are behaving wildly, and yet 9 out of 11 momentum surfers are successfully riding the crest of that volatility.
Yeah, this tells us that in this specific high volatility window, surging force tracking is exceptionally effective.
Because the structural breakdown of the market is generating massive, sustained waves of directional momentum.
Right. And because the wave riders aren't burdened by trying to figure out the true value of an asset based on broken historical correlations, they're free to just simply attach themselves to the dominant force of the day.
They just ride the wave. But then we flip over to Team Mountain Climbers, right? The unit's desperately searching for that quiet cave of market neutrality.
The data there is a bit different.
It is. They have 9 active units on their roster today. But only 4 out of those 9 are holding positive points, less than half.
Right.
Now, if someone were just skimming this log looking for a quick winner, it would be incredibly easy to say, well, the Mountain Climbers are failing, their logic is broken, shut them down.
Yeah, taking a surface-level view of a 4 out of 9 success rate would indeed look like a total failure in a traditional context.
But in the context of this specific market hurricane, I see those 4 surviving units as lighthouses in the dark.
Lighthouses, I like that.
Think about the mechanical difficulty of what they are attempting. Traditional market logic is collapsing. The baseline indices they use to hedge are decoupling.
Right, finding a perfect mathematical balance point, a true equilibrium, in an environment where assets are swinging irrationally is almost impossible.
Exactly. The fact that most traditional strategies are getting swallowed whole makes the survival of these 4 specific mountain climber units almost miraculous.
They have calculated a hidden pocket of stillness that literally no one else can see.
Yes. Framing them as lighthouses perfectly captures their function within the broader research mission.
In an environment fundamentally hostile to stability, finding even a handful of stable configurations is a massive breakthrough. It proves that structural equilibrium does still exist somewhere deep in the math.
It's just exponentially harder to map right now.
Right. And we can't dismiss the 5 units that are currently failing either. From a machine learning perspective, they are providing just as much value as the 4 that are succeeding.
Oh, because they're mapping the dead ends.
Exactly. The AI learns exactly which combinations of hedges and sector pairs collapse under this specific type of market pressure.
Wow. Okay, so that brings us to the ultimate test of the simulation. Because holding positive points on day 5 of a 10-session tenure doesn't mean anything. If your logic falls apart, you get wiped out on day 9.
No, it doesn't. The true validity of the strategy is measured at the exit.
Right. What happens when the unit completes its mandate and cashes in its final scorecard?
The June 1 log provides exit data, but only for one side. Team Wave Riders actually had no units assigned to complete their 10-session tracking protocol today.
So we only have final exit data for Team Mountain Climbers.
Correct.
The logs show that mountain climber units specifically deployed in the machinery sector completed their 10 sessions today and successfully exited with a final total score of plus 6.4 points.
And just to clarify, to understand what a point means in this context, it represents a standardized unit of simulated return, or alpha, generated above the baseline environment.
Right, so they managed to extract a positive 6.4 outcome entirely from finding stillness in the machinery sector.
Which is impressive. But to understand the true weight of that plus 6.4 score, we really have to zoom out and look at the aggregated competitive analytics.
What the log refers to as the season standings.
Yes, this broader view reveals the overarching environmental adaptability of these 2 models. The mountain climbers are currently holding a steady carryover balance of plus 19.8 points.
And their daily score added plus 2.9 points today.
Right, bringing their total season score to plus 9.3 points based on the log's specific weighting metrics.
But the most vital piece of data for the mountain climbers isn't their total score at all, it's their index contrast.
Yes, how their performance compares directly to the violent swings of the Nikkei 225 and the TOPIX.
Because for the mountain climbers, their index contrast in this season is incredibly flat. They're sitting at plus 0.1 points versus the Nikkei 225 and exactly plus or minus 0.0 points versus the TOPIX.
Now, a layman looking at a 0.0 contrast against an index might think the algorithm is a waste of computing power.
They might think, well, you aren't beating the market, you were literally just tying with it.
Right. But you have to remember the fundamental philosophy of the mountain climber. They are actively seeking detachment.
Detachment from the chaos.
Exactly. A 0.0 contrast against the TOPIX in a violently unstable market is a mathematical triumph. It proves their underlying logic is executing flawlessly.
They have achieved perfect insulation from the macro environment.
As the TOPIX swings wildly, breaking traditional portfolios, the mountain climbers are completely unaffected. They aren't getting dragged down by the failing benchmarks, and they aren't getting thrown upward by erratic spikes.
They have mathematically neutralized the market's movement. They found their cave,
It is the algorithmic equivalent of achieving a Zen state.
sitting cross-legged in the center of a tornado, meticulously hedging every gust of wind so that they don't move a single inch.
Exactly.
But when you look at the season standings for the Wave Riders, there's absolutely nothing zen about their data. They're just tearing through the simulation.
Oh, the Wave Riders are generating explosive numbers. Their daily score today alone was a massive plus 38.5 points.
Wow.
That brings their carryover balance to a towering plus 56.6 points.
And their index contrast is the exact opposite of the mountain climbers' perfect insulation. The Wave Riders are sitting at plus 2.6 points versus the Nikki and plus 3.6 points versus the Topi-X.
Right. They have zero interest in detaching from the failing traditional benchmarks.
None at all. They are aggressively outperforming them by utilizing the very volatility that is destroying the other models.
But we must round this data in the reality of the simulation. As researchers observing this log, we can't just look at a massive plus 38.5 point explosion and declare the Wave Riders the undisputed permanent champions of algorithmic trading.
Right.
These are cold data points proving a very specific, temporary reality. In this current abnormal, highly volatile environment, aggressive momentum tracking is yielding vastly higher simulation returns than equilibrium seeking.
I have to push back on that a bit, though.
Okay, go ahead.
If I'm looking at a scoreboard where one team just banked plus 38.5 points today, and the other team is barely scraping by with a plus 6.4 in the machinery sector, while half their active units are underwater,
Yeah.
why are we even giving the mountain climbers server space? Isn't the entire point of an algorithmic strategy to maximize returns? It feels like the mountain climbers are just failing slowly and stubbornly. Why shouldn't Team AI Lab just scrap the equilibrium model entirely and put 100% of their processing power into surfing the momentum?
I get why you'd think that, but doing that would completely violate Team AI Lab's core research posture. It would be a catastrophic failure of long-term design,
How so?
because you are looking at the data through the lens of a daily high score, rather than the lens of risk-adjusted environmental mapping.
Okay, fair.
The massive score for the Wave Riders today is a direct reflection of the current storm. If the environment suddenly changes, if the market stops violently trending and starts moving sideways in a tight, unpredictable range, the Wave Riders' logic becomes a massive liability.
Because they'd be starving for momentum.
Exactly. They'd be constantly buying into fake breakouts, and their massive point balance would bleed out rapidly.
And in that sideways, tight environment, the mountain climbers would suddenly be the ones thriving.
Right. Steadily extracting value from the micro inefficiencies while the Wave Riders just get chopped to pieces.
So today's harsh results for the mountain climbers are not a defeat.
No, not at all. They are vital, pristine observation data for the overarching AI system. Every mountain climber unit that gets swallowed by the storm today teaches the master algorithm exactly where the structural cliffs are.
Wow.
The system learns that under these specific wind conditions, with this specific index divergence, equilibrium simply cannot be maintained using historical hedges.
If Team AI Lab abandoned the strategy just because the current weather was bad, the overarching system would be completely blind when the weather eventually calms down.
Precisely. It is the profound difference between seeking a quick, temporary result and conducting rigorous, forward-looking research.
They aren't trying to win the day. They are building a comprehensive, multi-dimensional map of how logic interacts with reality under all possible conditions.
Exactly. The Wave Riders are currently proving that surfing is a highly effective way to survive a tsunami.
And the mountain climbers are willingly taking damage today to mathematically map exactly how high the water reaches so they know exactly where to build the ultimate shelter for the next one.
Neither model is failing. Both are computing exactly what they were designed to compute.
That is fascinating. And that brings us to the core mechanical truth of what we've observed in this June 1 log. Whether a unit is seeking pure stillness in the chaos, acting as a lighthouse in the dark, or aggressively riding the momentum of a structural breakdown, its survival hinges on absolute, strict adherence to its established rules.
Right. The units in the simulation survive because of their mandated 10-session tenure. They do not possess the capacity to switch from a mountain climber to a wave rider on day 4 just because the wind picks up.
Failure in a complex system almost always stems from emotional, erratic deviations from your core logic. Survival comes from executing your strategy, gathering the resulting data, and adapting the overarching model for the next deployment.
Exactly. And if we pull that concept out of the laboratory and apply it to a broader context, it leaves you with something quite profound to consider.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Think about your own life or your own business. When you face an overwhelming flood of chaotic information, when the fundamental rules of your industry suddenly shift overnight and gravity starts pulling to the left, what is your default algorithm?
Right. Do you burn your energy trying to find a quiet equilibrium, meticulously trying to hedge your risks and anchor yourself to the way things used to be? Or do you immediately let go of the old rules and attempt to ride the violent momentum of the disruption?
It's a tough call.
It is, and perhaps the most vital question Teen AI Lab leaves us with today. Are you actually tracking your own observation logs over a mandated period to see if your chosen strategy is mechanically sound? Or are you just blindly hoping to survive the storm?